You know why we get super pissed when things like this happen?
Yeah, and illegally selling water without a permit?
Because they can lead to this. Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin, Sandra Bland, Terence Crutcher, Philando Castile, Jordan Edwards, Stephon Clark, and now, on a day when Tamir Rice should have been celebrating his 16th birthday, here we are, adding another name to the list that just does not seem to end. Antwon Rose. A name that members of his community uttered with such delight and promise, representative of a bright spark who had his whole future in front of him, only to have that future cut short because of police brutality. Only to have it cut short by an officer, just like the officer who took the life of Tamir Rice, just like the officer who took the life of Jordan Edwards, an officer with a record of gross misconduct, who should have never been on the force to begin with. Last week in Pittsburgh, police officer Michael Rosfeld shot 17-year-old Antwon 3 times as he fled from a car stopped by police. While unarmed, Antwon was found to have a handgun clip in his pocket after the officer shot him. During several days of protest, a range of groups shut down highways and intersections all across the city. One of these protests led to a very rare moment of light amidst all the darkness, when 2 truck drivers whose path was obstructed by the protests got out of their trucks and started asking questions. And what happened next was pretty amazing.
What's going through your head as someone who's now stuck on this parkway right now?
There's a lot of different things that are going through my head. I guess the one thing is, why was this young man's life taken?
You decided to come out along with Robert here and talk with people in the rally, which I thought was interesting. Why'd you do that?
I wanted to know why this was going on.
Now here's the thing, I hope one day in this country moments like this become commonplace and don't have to be celebrated, but unfortunately that's not the case today. We live in a polarized society stripped of empathy, where many people, as soon as they see blue, go willfully blind to the countless injustices in front of them, ultimately believing that running from police merits a death sentence. But as seen here, this protest opened the eyes of 2 men who up until that point did not know about Antwon Rose or the incident. And rather than turn a blind eye, they actually listened to the concerns of this broken community and joined them. And so we would hope for the majority of Americans, because this is not a new narrative. It's painfully familiar. Take the case of 15-year-old Jordan Edwards. Officer Roy Oliver had previously been suspended from the force over anger management concerns. Yet he was back on the force and he was able to shoot a rifle into a moving vehicle, killing the boy. The same was true for Officer Timothy Loman, who before shooting Tamir Rice out the window of a moving vehicle had been deemed unfit in a previous position amid questions about his ability to follow instructions and to make good decisions in stressful situations. Loman's former deputy chief had even recommended that Loman be dismissed, citing a report from a firearms instructor who said Loman showed up for training distracted, weepy, and unable to communicate clear thoughts. And surprise, surprise, as a result, his handgun performance was dismal. And now we have Michael Rosfeld, a Pennsylvania police officer who left his previous job on a university police force about a month after prosecutors dropped a case against 3 men he'd filed charges against because they believed Rosfeld had falsified reports. And according to officials all across the University of Pittsburgh Police, this was just one of many controversial incidents surrounding the officer who, after being sworn into the police force, shot Antwon 3 times in the back. So yes, while officers like this continue to circulate through the system despite poor performance, bad judgment, and illegal behavior, you better believe we'll continue to shame the permit Patties of the world, because when she picks up that phone to complain about a child selling water on the sidewalk or a rogue barbecue, she could be calling on someone like Officer Rosfeld and ultimately put a child at risk. So make sure to download the TYT app for more, and as always, continue to resist.